Here's looking at you, Saul.
Hey, Saul. And Alfred. And James.
James.
Honey.
Daniel. All the Daniels.
Honey, yes, honey. Valentina.
Allison's. I don't know any women's names other than yours.
Valentina and Honey.
Valentina and Honey.
Yeah, and then the guy in Italy.
Yes.
Andrea.
Andrea. Andrea Mazzacotti.
Yeah.
Mazzanetti.
Yes, him, definitely, yes.
Susan Amagashi.
There you
go. And I'm going to leave it there.
All right.
Because if I can
continue,
try to keep remembering, I'll forget what I was doing.
Well, you won't get to the reading.
That's what I was doing.
Okay. What are we reading tonight? Now, what are you reading tonight?
The book is called Brazilian Nights.
Brazilian Nights.
I just finished reading Midnight.
The moon and
so as you can see, I'm sort of grooving on nights.
I see you grooving on nights.
The nights at the bottom of the sea. Don't nobody see but me. Been everywhere but the bottom of the sea. Don't nothing bother me. I'm a poet and know it.
Yes, you are.
I don't have to show it.
Yep.
But that's not what I'm talking about. Brazilian Nights.
Brazilian Nights.
Yeah, just as a little background. Valonga Prince is from a family named Prince, long-standing, old-time African-American family from Augusta, Georgia. And she owns a stress reduction company. It's one of these new world, newfangled things that will help you get through whatever it is you're going through. So she decides, well, since I'm helping other people de-stress, why not do it myself? So she takes a 3-year hiatus from her business, leaving it in secure hands and so forth and so on. She's still available for command decisions, etc., etc. And in the first 2 chapters, I'm blending her desire to know more about the bullfight and also to know more about Capoeira, Angola. So she goes to Spain and she goes to Bahia, Brazil. In Spain, she meets, of course, Manuel Arruza Machete. It's kind of a joke because we know what a machete is. But they named him Machete because he was such a killer. And then in Brazil, she becomes a student of Mestre Juizo. Juizo is Brazilian Portuguese for look out. Master, look out. So as my friend used to say at the theater, without further ado,
yes, indeed,
we begin. Mestre Matador Manuel Arruza Machete was allowing her the chance to cape a couple fighting female bulls. Their horns were short, but they turned quickly and were quite aggressive. They were going to be picked to determine whether or not they had the traits that a bull ranch breeder wanted to continue in his herd or emphasize or whatever. The saying goes that the bull, the male bull, gets his size and his horns from his father, and he gets his fighting heart from his mother. So the breeders make very careful choices of who the mothers are going to be of future bulls. This is why some people say the bull's bloodline is purer than yours, because they know who did what to who and what was the result of it.
Okay.
And the whole thing was going to be done as though it were a real bullfight, complete with a fake banderilla section. Machete loved the idea of the staging of a bullfight on his finca, his ranch. He was delighted to participate. She was given the opportunity to perform each of the jobs that led to the kill. She started off naturally as one of the picadores. That really felt strange. To sit astride a horse is something that looked and felt like a sharpened tent pole waiting for these small, aggressive mothers of bulls to be to charge. Remember, hit her in the center where the muscle is, not too far back. Relax. Valonga set the horse well. She had learned how to ride when her father was alive. Well, everybody should know how to ride a horse. They can teach us a lot. Her father, she remembered, was a very complicated man, had been. The bull trotting in toward her quilted, padded horse startled her. The females, at whatever age they took this test, were not as small as she had been led to believe. Machete himself took the bull away from the picks with gracefully ambulating chiquilinas. Valonga stared at the man weaving himself in and out of the cape, within and out of the bull's vision, tailoring his movements to fit the bull's clear, clean charge. This one, he indicated to a ranch foreman with one hand while he befuddled the poor animal with an old-fashioned serpentine rebolera. Next, they gave Valonga wooden stakes weighing as much as banderillas and said, pretend you are placing the sticks. Do it, get the feeling of it. But be careful, she knows we can cause her pain now. And she's much more cautious now than when she was at the beginning. Bulls learn very quickly, especially the smart mothers. Valonga was told to place one pair of banderillas al quiebro. It's like this. The bull is coming. You start to lean a little bit this way, and he sees you and he begins to fake over that way. And as he comes, see, you poop and come back. If you don't fake well enough and quickly enough, you could get tossed on your body. Valonga was told to place one pair of banderillas al quiebro. She was to stand in place, let the bull begin her charge, lean slightly to the left or right, and as the bull rumbled past, punch the sticks into the hump on her back. It seemed as though the stands were suddenly packed with people. Everything was right there for everybody to see. The bull took forever to charge her, and when she did, she wheeled and charged as though she had been struck by an electric bolt. Valonga had a second to compose herself, to remember to keep her feet together, lift her arms with the blunt banderillas, and slowly attract the charging bull's attention by leaning to the left or the right. She chose to face to the left. The bull went for the fake 3/4 of the way before realizing she had been faked out. She stopped in the middle of her charge and tossed her head, braced by miniature horns, causing Valonga to jump back in self-defense. Very good, Valonga! Very good, very good! Machete shouted over the barriera. She walked stiff-legged out of the bull's field of vision as a peon lured the animal's attention to another area of the arena. Now for the faena. Machete spoke quietly to her as he gave her the muleta and the wooden sword that was sometimes used as a support for the muleta. Valonga, you must remember that she runs fast, so you must speed up your cape work. You understand? She nodded numbly and moved back into the center of the ring. She had to remind herself that this arena was only an attachment to the estate. It wasn't the Plaza Madrid or the Plaza Mexico or any of the other great bull rings in the world. Could have been any of the great bull rings in the world so far as she was concerned. The bull, Malena, evidently shared her opinion. She charged as though her hooves were glued to rails. Valonga decided to open her faena with as many slow passes as she could manage. Malena, catching the lure and following it like a house cat, moving toward a bowl of fresh milk surprised her. The pasa de la muerte led her into doing a trio of naturales with the left and right hand. Malena was attentive and followed the lure eagerly. The muleta and the fake sword was dragged from her hand at the completion of the third naturale. Things happen.
Oops. It was going so well, and then.
And as always, and then. Machete, showing great concern, dashed from behind the buladera to distract the bull as she raced around the ring. Valonga's muleta snagged on her right horn. One of his peons snatched the muleta from the bull's horn. Machete lured the furiously charging animal into his cape for a few media veronicas. Valonga stood over to one side, excited by the beauty of Machete's clever use of the large cape. After a couple more passes, he finished up by literally hypnotizing the bull into a trance with the serpentine motion of the capote. He strolled away looking as though he were taking a walk on one of the boulevards. No, it was Valonga, the moment of truth, he whispered to her. He handed her a short, slender knife. What do I do with this? I want you to profile, just as I've taught you to do, and cross the bull as you plunge into the bull's hump. She won't be hurt very much, and we can shoot her full of antibiotics to cure her. Are you ready? Valonga nodded, beginning to feel as though she were in a strange dream. She was going to kill a bull, symbolically. Malena trotted from one side of the arena to another, pausing to stare at different objects. She was obviously angry as a female bull can feel. Valonga walked quickly to the center of the arena and made a roundabout gesture indicating that the kill she was about to make was for all of the people in the arena.
Nice.
The afición applauded. Malena charged. Valonga whirled her muleta with a movement that deflected the bull's aim. Ole! Machete shouted from beyond the barrera. Valonga took heart from the encouragement and tried two more passes. Malena stood stock still for a few moments after the last pass. Now Valonga whispered to herself the moment of truth. She profiled and moved toward Malena as Malena charged her. Valonga felt a sharp jab in her right thigh and suddenly saw stars in the world twirling around inside her head. She came back to her senses sprawled on a deck chair on the veranda of the finca. Machete was bending over her, smiling, a servant nearby. Valonga, are you okay? She nodded. Yes, okay. Did I make the kill? Machete smiled and held up an ancient dried-up ear from another bull he had killed years before. They looked at the ear and burst into rib-tickling, contagious laughter. She didn't realize she'd been gored slightly in the upper right thigh until laughter broke one of her stitches. Oh, my God. Don't worry, it's only a slight wound. It will heal very quickly. Machete used her wound as an excuse to keep her as the guest for an extra week. Don't you see, Valonga? It will look bad if you leave now. People will think badly of our relationship. He doesn't simply fight bulls.
Yeah, he fights reality.
She decided to humor the situation by remaining on the ranch. The wound required 12 stitches and was painful, healing, itchy. Machete gave her cocoa butter to help the healing process. Use this 3 times a day and you will hardly have a scar when the wound heals. Machete made no further efforts to seduce her, but still made every effort to maintain his gypsy Casanova image by having long conversations in her bedroom late at night. Mostly about the corrida, fueled by glasses of Jerez de la Frontera. I know that there are many who will disagree with this, but I think the matador is one of the great coquettes of the world.
Mm-hmm.
He is, how you say, a very great flirt. Wait a minute.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
I don't get that.
Mm-hmm.
Let me try to make clear.
Mm-hmm.
The bull is a true symbol of macho, you understand?
Mm-hmm.
Without a doubt. The man, any man,
Mm-hmm.
no matter how macho he is, can never be as much macho as the bull. In many ways, the man is really a woman in disguise.
Mm-hmm.
Valonga readjusted her wounded leg on the ottoman and set up a little straighter. A woman in disguise?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I believe. Here we have this man who is not like other men. We are slim. Machete stood and twirled around in an unself-conscious way as though showing off a movement rather than himself. We are hairless.
Mm-hmm.
No one has ever seen a real bullfighter with a beard.
Mm-hmm.
We wear tightly fitted clothes with sequins and bright colors. We flirt with a bull.
Mm-hmm.
We wave red capes in front of him to trick him into doing what we want him to do. Isn't that what women do? With their perfumes, pretty clothes, and graceful movements?
Mm-hmm.
Valonga thought about it for a few minutes and gave a qualified nod. Yes, to his question. And finally, after we have confused him into a kind of trance, we stick it in and he dies. But isn't that a reversal of the man-woman thing?
Mm-hmm.
Not really, because you see, even the man kills the bull, he also dies. Because the bull is the man and the man is also the bull. Many of the midnight conversations ended on a slightly confused note, but there were several clear points made. Make no doubt about it, Valonga. We are priests, making a sacrifice for the benefit of the afición. We are shedding blood, sometimes ours, always the bulls, to purge the souls of all of us who come to our events, no matter whether they sit in the shade or the sun. Sol o sombra. As a gypsy, I can say to you I understand the nature of the corrida better than the payos. We gypsies are the soul of Spain and they know it. In many ways, we are like the black people of your country. Machete was right about the effect of the cocoa butter. She had used it religiously for a few months and the gash in her thigh had healed with barely a trace. Machete had been emotionally disturbed when she announced that it was time for her to leave. But Valonga, there's so much more to talk about. The season is starting in 2 weeks. You will have the opportunity to see me fight the bulls all over Spain. Yes, I know, Machete, I know, but I must go. I have my own reason to attend to, my own seasons. She felt a slight twinge in her upper right thigh where the cow had torn a gash. Enrique, Nelson, and Curio smothered her with attention. Valonga, you want another Brahma? Brahma beer is one of the best beers in the world from Brazil.
Oh, okay.
She smiled and nodded no. She was still sipping a half-full bottle. They sprawled around a table in a bar that resembled an open storefront. Men, women, children moved in and out. Groups of men clustered at one table discussing the relative merits of various soccer players. A pair of serious lovers huddled in a far corner, whispering into each other's ears.
Okay.
She liked the openness of the bars, the lack of a puritanical sense of shame that closed North American saloons up behind thick doors and neon signs. People here wanted to drink beer, cachaça, have a good time without guilt. People come to Brazil to study Capoeira Regional. You come for Capoeira Angola. Why? Curio, his translator, was kept busy asking the questions that his two non-English speaking friends wanted to have answered. Because Capoeira Angola is deeper, more African.
Ah.
She was grateful for once that the translation process gave her time to really think about what she wanted to say and to say it as briefly and clearly as possible. Valonga, Hike wants to know what you think of Mestre Juizo. She slowly turned her beer bottle around in a wet circle on the table. What do I think of him? I am a master of Capoeira Angola. Attenshun. She did a quickie playback of her past 2 weeks in Uguruba Capoeira, Angola, Bahia. Mestre Juizo was a master, there was no doubt about that. It was apparent from the strange gleam in his eyes and the radar feel he had for being in the right place at the right time. She had taken classes West African dance, been a serious jogger at one point, never allowed herself to get out of condition, and none of it seemed to matter with Capoeira Angola. The relatively simple movements, the calmly moving cartwheels, and the monkey-like jingle were strenuous enough to make her feel badly, totally exhausted after 15 minutes. I think Mestre Juizo is a great psychologist. Curio translated the question and the answer, and the three men sipped their beers and nodded in agreement. Pay attention! The master had never questioned her about why she wanted to study Capoeira Angola. He seemed to know why. It was as though this martial art that he knew, that he taught, dealt more with the mind than with any movement of the body. Pay attention! Yeah. The class started promptly at 7 p.m. and had almost an aimless quality about it. 15 minutes were devoted to complex but simple movement. Negativa, rastiera, this way. And he would demonstrate. He was impatient, but always seemed to have the time to show the struggling student the correct way to make a movement. She studied him as he studied them. He had the ability, it seemed, to know exactly what 30 people were doing and whether or not they were doing it correctly. This is Smealua. Pay attention! The movements of Capoeira Angola, fortified by its music, were designed to fit the natural motions of the body, the ability to stack, attack, built into each movement. She was frequently confused by the seemingly ambivalent nature of this African Brazilian martial art, the way it flowed from innocence to sophistication, from gentleness to violent eruptions. Think what you're doing! She felt comfortable in the art, driven to make movements she never thought about making. Don't kick too high. The master pushed, pulled at their psyches, coerced them into understanding the nature of his art. Capoeira Angola is what you eat. It is how you sleep, what you dream. It is life. Capoeira Angola.
Yes, it is life.
Yes. Pay attention. Machete had said that in a slightly different way. Remember, Valonga, the bull represents life, and the horns can pierce you at any time. Strangely, she felt, no one had questioned her reasons for wanting to study Capoeira Angola till now. She smiled at her three companions. They instantly returned her smile. Why Capoeira Angola, Valonga? You already asked me that. No, I didn't. Nelson asked. Curio added the gleam to his eyes to his smile. Why? She felt uncertain if he would understand that she knew the difference between Capoeira Patronal and Capoeira Angola. Well, I explained earlier that I feel that Capoeira Angola is deeper, more African. She paused for him to translate. The couple in the corner was slowly walking out, the man's left arm around the woman's waist. The men discussing the merits of various soccer players had become a bit more lively. She frequently heard the names of Pele and Garrincha mentioned. Explain more, please. She signaled for another round of beers. This one is on me. Well, I'm sure you guys must know better than I do that Capoeira Angola came about many years before Capoeira Regional, maybe hundreds, maybe even thousands of years before. Curio translated using his hands to explain her time reference. And that's what I wanted to get into. I wanted to get involved with the root of the matter, not the branches. I mean, you see. I mean, if you knew that it was possible to have the goose who laid the golden eggs, why settle for the silver egg? They raised their bottles of beer to toast, salute to her. She felt moved by the gesture. And this is how we come to the end of chapter 2. And we will be moving on to chapter 3.
Yes, well.
Tomorrow, where she goes off to deal with and to be dealt with by yet another master. You see,
so we're leaving Cedric and Timba and Jimmy Morgan and Barbara and Dennis and Hiki, all there in the Horta, and we're going on to the next chapter.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Because she's got to study something else. Her time is limited. You'd be amazed how quickly 3 years could go.
I know.
You know,
I've been amazed at how many quickly 16 years have
gone. That's the way it goes.
Yes.
So that's where we are, and I appreciate your patience.
Thank you very much. That was Brazilian Nights, Chapter 2. Book can be purchased at iUniverse.
This book?
Yes, at Amazon, Barnes & Noble. Or go to your local bookstore and say, I want a copy of Brazilian Nights by Odie Hawkins.
I gotta tell you, there's a whole bunch of typing glitches in there, man.
That was the original. That was back in the 1980s, I think.
Yeah,
published, right. You gave them the manuscript, and they gave whoever to type it. Sure. Okay, indeed.
But it's funny because you won't mistake word for world because the context tells you what it is.
Yeah.
You've made that clear to me one day in a conversation about how it is psychologically your mind takes in the correct word,
exactly.
Even though, well, anyway, it's just one of a number of books.
This is so true. Your website is www.odiehawkins.com, or you can just Google Odie Hawkins to find the marvelous works of Mr. Odie Hawkins.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
See you later, Michael.
See you later.
Michael Neal. See you later.
See you later, Michael Neal. Book is on the way. Ciao.
Book is on the way, man.
Ciao.
Ciao.